Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all have practiced whatever we have learned so far. Inheritance is one of the most important concepts that definitely will be asked in an interview. So, yeah, so please make sure that you understand what is method overloading, what is method overriding, what is downcasting, what is upcasting, and all these details, right? So, now there are one important question that I need to ask, right? So when we are creating instance of or an object for a child class, we understood it first called the a super class, right? And then it will call the super class of it. So for example, if I try to run the test, so I'm trying to create a dog class object. So first it will call this particular dog class constructor, but it understands there is a domestic animal superclass, so it goes here and it tries to create call this particular constructor, but it also understands there is an animal superclass, and then it goes and calls this, right? So you all know that this is calling first animal class constructor, then the domestic animal constructor, then the dog class constructor. But any guesses or any wild guesses, why it is doing like this? Is that, could you imagine why it is behaving like this? It's a very tricky question. Most people who's in automation is dead, they also don't know all these things. Okay, when I try to ask these in an interview, they all could tell, okay, it will call this super class constructor, but they don't know why, right? There needs to be a reason for everything, right? If you understand the reason, it will be easy for you to remember it for a very long time, right? Very simple reasons, guys. Okay, first reason, when you're trying to create an object, right? So the object needs to be always concrete. For example, if you're trying to purchase a dog, you need to define what and all it has to do, right? Or if you, let's say, imagine an employee, you are creating an employee object, it has to be concrete, right? Concrete means all the things needs to be ready, right? All the behaviors needs to be ready, all his variables needs to be ready, then only he can work, right? The same way, for if you are creating a dog instance, okay, all its components needs to be ready. Here, if I go to the dog constructor, right, if you notice, this constructor will only initialize these variables if there is anything here, and then it will be ready to use these two methods. But this dog class also inherits lot of property from its superclass. So maybe if you want to define the behavior, whether it is domestic or it is sleep or some other behavior from your animal class, this is only possible if you call this constructor first. If you call this constructor only, these things will get ready, right? So the number of years is one of the important thing to construct a dog object. So if this has to be ready, okay, this constructor needs to be called, right? So that's the reason every time you create an object, okay, its superclass constructor will be called to first construct its particular variables and methods, all that, right? So it has to be ready. It has to be it has to use all these methods from the animal class. So it has to first call this, then the down the inheritance chain, then it has to call this constructor, so that it, if there is any variables here or if there is any method, it will be getting ready, right? At the end, it will it will call this constructor so that it is also getting ready. So when you are creating an object for a dog class, okay, it has to be concrete, it needs to know all its behaviors, right? So that's the important reason why the constructors of super classes are called first. Okay, it needs to make sure all the animal class things are ready before constructing your domestic animal. It also make sure that it is all the things in the domestic animal is also ready, so that you can create a dog class, that is dog class object, that is really concrete and know what it has to do, right? Yeah. And for the same reason you cannot create an instance for your um, abstract classes. For example, if I go here, so as you all know, dog is not an abstract class. Dog is not an abstract class. But let's say I want to create an object for this domestic animal, which is an abstract class, right? Let's go here and try to do it. Okay. Let's remove all these things, right? So domestic animal, right? Okay, that's actually given. So let's try to create it like this. So if you notice, it is throwing clearly error. Why? Because you cannot create an object for abstract class. This is because this abstract class domestic animal have one method called as sleep, which is abstract, where its behavior is undefined. Okay, so this class is not concrete yet. Okay, animal class and domestic animal, if you combine these two, this is not concrete. Okay, so if you create an object for this domestic animal doesn't know how to sleep, right? So you haven't defined the behavior yet, so you cannot create an object for an abstract class, right? There are cases where we create anonymous inner classes, but that's for another day. But for now, just remember, you cannot create an object for the abstract classes just because you cannot create an concrete object. That's the reason we cannot create an instance for your uh, abstract classes. The same reason, if you try to create animal one new animal, you cannot do it, right? So let's forget about this anonymous class so if I try to do this, it's again throwing error. See, animal is abstract class, abstract and cannot be instantiated, right? This is the reason. Good. So uh, as we know that this is we cannot create it because the behavior is unknown, right? One of the behavior, that is sleep, is unknown. Apart from that, it has this thing ready. It has animal class, all the properties in the animal class also ready. So only problem that is stopping us from creating um, you know object is sleep method. So what if I create that here itself? Okay, so you hover your mouse and put the implement methods. So there is only one abstract method. If I if I on the fly create a uh, implementation for this, right? So this is called as anonymous inner classes, right? Uh, so we will come to this later, but you can create an object if you are ready to provide the implementation for the abstract methods. Okay, so then it will know, hey, the only problem that stops me from creating object is because the sleep method is not overridden. Now what I'm telling, oh, if that's the case, then I will override it and I'll provide my own implementation, let's say abcd whatever. Then it is okay to create it. So now I can use this animal dot, and then I can call whatever I want, right? So this is how you can create anonymous inner classes on the fly, right? Good. But we'll come to this in detail, but just this is just an overview. We'll come to this anonymous inner class implementation later. Yeah, but for now, just understand you cannot directly create an abstract class objects. Okay, good.
Amutan,
Yeah,
I have a doubt.
okay.
So, Amutan, in the abstract class, like you have right now sleep method, which is declared as abstract. But suppose if a abstract method doesn't have any abstract method.
So okay, that's a good question. So let's go and let's remove this. Okay, let's remove this. And if you remove this, this doesn't has to be abstract, right? You can remove the abstraction here. The thing is, if I remove that, I also, so let's say there is no sleep method, I have nothing to implement, I have implemented everything here, then this is not even an abstract class. So if you put as abstract, there is no reason for this to be abstract. See, it's telling why you are putting as abstract. There is no abstract method here, right? So you can
Hmm.
remove this. So now this becomes a normal class, and it all its behavior as concrete. So this is concrete. All the methods here are concrete. It has a variable that is concrete. So all its behaviors are defined. Its parameters are defined. So you can still create an object for the domestic animal directly, right?
Yes.
Good. So so we have,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
Amudan,
Go ahead.
we can define a method also as final, right? So once I define something as final, I cannot modify on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you that's what we saw, right? So if you have actually final eat method, right? If I try to override in the child class, let's say animal is the parent class, I go here and I try to override it. Okay. See, it's telling clearly, uh, hey, eat cannot override eat in inheritance.animal. Inheritance is the package name. See, if inheritance is the package name, dot animal class. Reason is overridden method is final. Okay, so it is telling you an option, make animal dot eat not final. Okay, if you make it as a not final, okay, the final will be removed, then you can override. Okay, again guys, this override annotation is just for our understanding, but Java knows it implicitly that this method is getting overridden from the parent class. We are adding this just to make sure that while reading itself we can understand. Otherwise, you need to check. Okay, there is a parent class. I need to go and check whether there is a eat method in the parent class. Oh, okay, then I can understand this is getting overridden. So instead of all this complexity, just you if you have an annotation on top of it, so that it will be more easy for us to understand that these methods are getting overridden from their parent classes. Got it?
Okay.
Yeah, if a method is final, you cannot override. Okay, that's the rule. Okay, this gives you a freedom and control over what needs to be overridden in your child class and what needs not to be overridden in your child class. Okay, more about controlling. Okay, okay, now we have learned so much, right? So we have already seen a lot of examples with animals and all that. Yesterday I told, there is a way that we have to understand what is super keyword, so that I can explain how we can, basically interact with these variables, right? So maybe we will take a different example. Even I am bored of this animal class. Let's close all these things and let's create one more package. The package name be bank, and what is a class? So let's say I'm having a class called RBI. So RBI, you all know this is a Reserve Bank of India, right? So it defines all the rules, right? For example, I'm going to make this as an abstract class, and I'm going to have all the abstract methods here. So what is those methods? For example, I can have, let's say, a public void withdraw. And this is an abstract method. I don't have any implementation for this, right? The same way, you can have one more method, that is, let's say, deposit. Okay, so now, so this RBA class doesn't do anything, but it just have abstract methods. Guys, the abstract methods defines the skeleton. Okay, defines the skeleton. Okay, let's say tomorrow you are going to start your own bank, you have to follow RBA. If you have to follow RBA, RBA will set some norms, right? So it have clearly set some norms. Hey, if you are creating a bank, you need to have a provision to make withdrawal of their money, and customers can deposit their money. So they need to have, a provision to do this. Okay, but I'm not really bothered about your provision, but I really want you to have these two things ready. So I am defining the skeleton. Okay, I define how my child classes should behave. That's the use of abstract methods, right? So I define what my child methods needs to do. Okay, let's say I create one child method. Let's say this is SBI, which is uh, basically extending RBI, right? So if someone is extending RBI, see, now this is the abstract methods, I need to implement them, right? So again, guys, I normally use shortcuts. So you can press Alt and Enter, and then just press on implement methods. It will tell you what methods you want to implement. Just do Control A, and then you can put Enter, right? Good. So now we have overridden this method, and you can write your logic. Okay, so uh, you can please withdraw from ADM. Okay, even though if you go to SBI bank, they don't allow you to withdraw money directly. Okay, they'll ask you to go to ATM. Okay, so they only please deposit uh, in the ATM. Okay, so this is this is what the provision they have. They, even though they, so let's say they have some W implementation. The same way, whatever the class they're going to follow needs to follow this, right? So this is all fine. Now let's speak about variables, right? you know as an RBI, I also want to make sure that, every time someone is lending some loans, okay, they need to have a rate of interest, right? So what I'm going to do, public, maybe I'll use a double so that I can use decimal points. um, Rate of interest. Okay, I'm not really bothered about what is your rate of interest, but I'm actually interested that you need to have at least some percentage as your rate of interest. Okay, so So you need to make sure that you are, setting this variable, right? Now this becomes very tricky. How we'll handle this? Okay, so let's create one more test class so that we'll try to group everything together. So bank test, let's try to play around with this, right? So when I try to create SBI equal new SBI, okay, now SBI dot, okay, so you can make withdrawals, you can make deposit, and you can make rate of interest, right? You can call the rate of interest. But now for, it will be default to 0, right? Because the constructor will make this one as the default one. So it is a double, right? So it basically does zero point 0.0, I think. So let's try to run it and see what's happening. Okay, rate of interest dot s out v. Okay, let's try to run it. So this is throwing errors in the, you know cat classes and all that. Let's go there and then remove the cat classes. I don't know what's happening. Big dog. This guys, there is some issues. Okay, I don't want this cat class. So we have committed certain code there, so that's causing issues. So I removed the cat. I will also do the sheep as well. So that's what causing the issues. Or let me go to animal class and make this as abstract. Okay, let me uncomment this. Okay, now all the things should gone. Yeah, so let's close all these things again. So let's go to RBI SBI, that's fine. Where is my bank test? Okay, it got deleted. Okay, let's create it again. Bank test. Okay, so SBI equal to new SBI. Okay, you are creating an object and then you are calling SBI dot rate of interest, or okay, you're trying to print it, right? Let's see what's happening. Domestic animal is not abstract. Okay, and just made one change and it's causing all the issues. I'm just trying to run this and then it's showing all the other issues. At last. Okay, if you notice, this SBI rate of interest is 0.0. This is because when you call SBI, it will go and call the default constructor, even though it is not visible to our naked eyes, it is still there. So there is something called as public SBI, something like this, and this internally calls the bank class, the RBI, right? So you are actually having one constructor here that is public RBI, right? Even though it doesn't do anything, it goes and default this value to 0.0. So that's what it's doing. But as an RBI, I want them to do all these things. Okay, every time you do it, you create it instance for your SBI object, you need to have a date of interest defined. So what you can do, I can just tell I want to refer to a parent class variable, right? So this there is a keyword called super. Okay, if you type super, which means it's a super class. Okay, the super class for SBI is RBI. Okay, so if you just type dot, so now you get rate of interest. Okay, you can call their methods super class methods as well, but for now I just want to call their variables. Okay, equal to 7.5. So I'm just hard coding here. Okay, whenever someone is creating an object for SBI, this constructor will set the value here to 7.5, right? So let's see what's happening. Okay, good. If you notice, guys, you might have a doubt. Okay, this is setting is to 7.5, but RBI constructor will set this to 0.0, right? Okay, now you need to imagine which one will be called first. First, the RBI constructor will be called, it will be 0.0, and then next the SBI constructor will be called. At that time only we are setting this to 7.5. So the 0.0 will be now set to 7.5. Okay, so the value will be 7.5. Good. Now I don't want to hard code. Every time you create a customer, for example, you are a, you are a regular customer, maybe you are some preferred customer, you are working for some IT company, you are getting a lot of preference, then I will allow people to while creating an object, they can set their stuff. Okay, so we can get those values. And let me go to the bank test, and while creating the value, you can tell this is 6.35. Okay, we are giving rate of interest loan at 6.35 rate because he's a preferred customer. Okay, he has some good records. So let's try to run it, and we could able to do this, right? So the super is a keyword in Java. Like, we already know about this keyword. The same way, the super keyword is basically does call your superclass methods or superclass variables. You can just call this with the help of super, so that we can understand this is actually relying in their superclass. Okay, the super, if there is multiple levels of inheritance, it will just call the first level. Okay, one level up, which is RBA. Okay, good. Now, instead of you making this using the super call, what you can also do, okay, you can also create, okay, whatever the thing. Okay, I don't want to mess around here. Okay, I will just pass it to the superclass constructor. Let's create one more constructor in here. So I will create one more constructor that accepts double value, that is let's say ROI. Okay, and here I can just tell this dot rate of interest equal to ROI, right? So I can set here. Now, instead of directly setting it, you can pass to the super class constructor. How to pass? So you can just type super, and then you can just tell like this. Now, if you do this, it will just call the constructor, which you don't have to really do because it actually does that without you really doing it. And ROI. Now I am passing. So I am calling a constructor in the RBI that is accepting one parameter. Again, guys, you already know, if I call this constructor, it will by default call the RBI constructor. So implicitly it does this. Okay, you don't have to do it. Okay, now in my case, I need to call this constructor because this constructor only I'm setting the value for this variable. Okay, so I can basically pass ROI. Again, guys, if you don't understand any of this, that's absolutely fine. Okay, because super keyword is very rarely used in test automation, right? So we normally, I haven't seen people normally using it. And again, inheritance is rarely used in automation framework because it's not really good practice to inherit stuff. I'll teach you while we design the framework. I hope you all can follow till now. The one thing that you need to understand is the super keyword in Java helps you to access the super class variables. Sometimes you want to call super dot variables, you can do it. It can also help you to call super class constructors like this. It can help you to call super class uh, parameterized constructors. And sometimes if you also want to call super class methods, you can also do that as well, right? For example, let's say this withdrawal method is not abstract. Okay, it has some implementation. Hey, uh, hey, I am or bi method. Okay, whatever. Now you want to override this in your child class. If you just want to override, you will just do this. But in my case, okay, let's say uh, I will I support withdrawal. Okay, withdrawal is WD from bank. Okay, so by default, all the things needs to have bank withdrawal. Okay, this is my thing. Okay, but on top of it, you can provide other means of withdrawal. For example, in SBI, we also support ATM, right? But if I try to print it, let's see what's happening. Okay, SBI dot withdrawal. Okay, let's see what's happening. So the overridden method will be called in the child class will be called, right? It will only print ATM. So will SBI only supports APM, but our intention is actually we want to reuse from RBI that we also support deposit withdrawal from bank. Also on top of it, we are providing withdrawal from ATM, right? That's how we want. So in those cases, what I can do, I can go here and then I can just tell super dot, okay, withdrawal. Okay. Now what will happen in this case? it also does this, it also does this, right? So we are making use of super keyword to call our parent class methods, right? So that's the use of super class, right? Let's say I run this test again, back test. This time, hey, this is reused in the child class with the help of super keyword, and this is coming from your child method, right? So this is the advantage of using super keyword is used to call super class objects, for example, like their parameters, their methods, or their constructors, or their parameterized constructors. Okay, so any doubts in this, guys? Any doubts in this so far?
So Amuthan, like we have parent and child. Parent is the RBI and the child is the SBI, correct?
Yes, yes.
So in the RBI, you have declared one rate of interest as a variable. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in the SBI also, if I will declare, both will act as a different variable.
Yes, yes. You
And if I
should
will
not do that.
create,
You should not do that. That's the thing. So that's why what people do, instead of declaring this as a public one or protected one, they will make this as a private, and they will control with the help of uh, you know uh, getters and setters. Okay.
So now if you would declare RBI variable a rate of interest as a private, then with the help of super also we cannot access it in the child class.
Okay. You, what you want me to do? You want me to declare this in the child class?
No, no, declare it as a private in the RBI first.
Okay, declare it. Okay, I am declaring this private. What else you want to do?
Now in the SBI, we cannot access it via super
No,
also.
no, no, no. You
We
cannot
cannot
access
access.
this. So if I go here, it will be, I didn't access it. So if I try to access it, it will throw error. See, it is not even populating me because that is
Populate.
private to that class. Okay.
Yes,
Next
yes.
topic we are going to cover is access modifiers, where we will be dealing this in detail. Okay. Yeah. Any other doubts apart from this?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So even if you don't know this, right? So the super keyword is not really important, but just they will ask it in the interview. When you will use super, when you will use this. Okay. That's the question they will ask in an interview. And also there is a rule, or the thing, the super call, the call to your constructor, the super class should be the first statement. So let's say I print this. After this, I'm printing this. Okay. Now if I say here, yes out, and then this. Okay, this is not working. Why? Right here this is okay, but here it is not allowing. Why? Anyone can tell me the reason? Okay, this this is working. Okay, but this is not working. Anyone can tell me? I have already covered why this.
Yeah,
I
it needs
guess,
to. Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
guess it would be like in constructor, whenever we are using the super, I think this could be the at the very first line, right? In
Yeah,
method it will work, but in constructor it won't.
why?
it
See,
wants to initialize the parent class first.
y-
Then that's why we
yes.
should. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I told. Guys, see, these kind of rules, if you ask many people in who are working in automation for a very long time, they will tell super keyword should be in the first. But you ask them why, they don't know why. Because you know, they don't understand the real core, right? If I have to create an object for RBI, our main intention is we need to call the super class constructor, right? So if you're calling the super class constructor in the second line, all the objects or the variables that will be default set, okay, your RBI class will not be ready, okay, to construct the SBI class. That's the reason always you need to make your super call first. Okay, this calling the super constructor is important to construct the your parent class stuff. Okay, then only your parent will be ready to construct the child. Okay, so yeah, this class is depending on this class. So whenever you are creating an object for this class, make sure all the things are ready in the RBI class. That's why we need to call this first before we do any other operation. But here this is allowed because this is just a method and the object is already created. So it doesn't matter whether you call it first or second. Here we are not we have already a concrete class. It doesn't matter which method you are calling it first, so it doesn't really matter. So okay, so these kind of things are really tricky, but the reason they are tricky is people don't understand the real Java. Okay, they learn all the half cooked. You go and ask any automation engineer why the super keyword has to be first in a constructor. Super call, why? They will not tell you this answer because they don't know, right? You ask them why we are using encapsulation. Okay, they will tell like, okay, we are hiding all this. No, no, not all that. Okay, if you use a variable, you don't have the lot of control. If you use a variable as private and then you expose getters and setters, you get lot of control. You decide what value needs to be set here, what value need not to be set here. Okay, this is the real reason, right? So unless you take any tutorial, go and watch, nobody will explain this because they really don't try to understand what's happening. Okay, so if you try to understand these things, you never forget. Okay, I don't prepare for any of my classes because I have solved these questions. I have kept asking all these questions and understood why they are doing this. Okay, so you need to also inculcate the habit of thinking. Okay, think and question yourself why we are doing this. Okay, if that has to be a substantial reason why we are doing it. Okay, good. So now we have understood all these things. If there is any questions, I will stop here and take questions. Otherwise we'll see about access modifiers. Okay, okay, then I'll take it as a no and then I'll move on further. Let's say now we want to learn about access modifiers. Okay, okay, let's try to start with something, let's say private, right? So first one, we made it as a private, which means you cannot access this from your child class. Okay, so that's what we have seen, right? So when I try to call SBI dot, we could not see this because it is not available, right? This is only, so the private indicates it can be only accessed within this particular class. You cannot access this outside. Okay, what else I could do? If I can, I make it as a public one, then this is available for all the classes. Okay, for example, SBI dot, okay, I can access this. Okay, if you go to any other class, I can access this, right? But I want to only restrict to all my childs, other people should not access this. Okay, then I can go here and make this as protected. Okay, when you make this as a protected, okay, this cannot be accessed, okay, from other classes. For example, we are trying to access this here, which is not really possible. You cannot do it because this rate of interest is basically, you know protected. Okay, you are trying to access from a class called bank test. That is not a bank test, is not a child class of RBA. Okay, so you cannot access this. So we have seen three things. Okay, first, if you have something as a private, it can be accessed only within the class. Okay, next we are seeing about protected. It can be accessed only by the class and its child classes. Okay, we also seen about public, which means it can be accessed by anyone, right? Public means as long as they have the control, accessed by any class. Okay, that doesn't matter, accessed by any class. Okay, previously it was public. So if you make this as a public, okay, if you notice, this is getting access, this will be accessed. Okay, so this is reason is this is public. Okay, now I want to change this to protected. How will I print this value? I need to print this value or whatever, right? So if it is made as protector, then I can access it here. Okay, if I type super dot whatever, so I need to basically uh, you know since you are passing this, maybe you cannot do it, but let's say I'm trying to access yes out super dot rate of interest. The reason I could access this is because it is protected. Protected means only this class and the child classes can access it. So this is a child class of RBI, so it can access this. Okay, so that's the use of protected. There is one more thing that is default. Okay, if you don't give anything, okay, if you don't give anything, okay, you can access this within the same package. For example, this bank class sorry, the bank package contains RBI and SBI. So you can access this in these two packages. Okay. If you are not in this package, okay, you cannot access this. For example, the bank test is actually in different package called as test folder. Okay. So this is in different package, so you cannot access it. So by if you are not giving anything, we call it as default access modifier or package protected. We call it as package protected, which means, see, you either it should be in the current package, or even if it is in the different package, it needs to be have a child relationship. For example, if I move this SBI to inheritance class, okay, now I move this. Let's say, let's try to access, go to RBI default. Okay, let's go here. So this is causing issue. Let's try to, you cannot access this, sorry. But if I go here, super dot, okay, so I think this is limited to the package only. So I think if it is in a different package, it won't work. Let's move that back here. Yeah, I think it has to be in the same package. Again, it doesn't matter whether it is extending or not. Let's say I create one more class, say HDFC, and this does not extends this, but let's say try to create an object for this and access it. Okay, let's say public void demo, whatever, and let's try to call a new uh, SBI, okay, dot rate of interest, right? So see, if you notice, this is getting called because this is in the same package. Okay, so maybe I'll give some values here. Okay, yeah, so as long as it's in the same package, you can basically access this. Okay, so that's the use of these things. Okay, but most probably we will use the private one and the protected one and the public one. Default will not be used, guys. So that's even, I'm not really I have never used it, right? So normally just keep in mind, you will most probably use private, okay, or public, or protected. So protected is for child relationship, public is for everyone, and private is for only this class. Okay, so private will be only used when you are using encapsulation, or you don't want to expose this to any other class. Okay, so that's all about access modifier. Now let's also see one one important concept. Let's go to the main method. So if you notice this public static void main. Okay, now we all know this is a main method, right? So you all know this is a main method. It accepts some string arguments. That's fine. The name of the method is main. That's fine. It's not returning anything. But if you notice, this is public. Okay, this is public because the JVM needs to access this. Okay, needs to access to start the program. Okay, because this is a starting point of your program, right? If you made this as a private, okay, then it won't work. Okay, so see, if you notice, the run symbol itself is not there. JVM cannot access this. Okay, it will not be treated as a real main method. Okay, so you have to make this as a public one. So then only you will get the run option also. So you cannot run it if you make it as a private, because JVM cannot access this. Okay, good. So this is all about access modifiers. Any doubts in this so far? Okay. Okay, let's also see. Let's say um, I'm creating an HDFC class, and I'm trying to, let's say, extend RBI, but also I am trying to extend, let's say, employee. It's throwing error. What it's saying? Either declared abstract or implement method deposit in RBI class cannot extend multiple classes. So this is the stuff I want to show, guys. One class can have inheritance relationship with only another one class. Okay, so let's put a diagram here so that you all can understand clearly. So let's say this is your parent. Okay, this is your parent. A parent can have multiple child. Okay, so you can have multiple childs. Like in our case, we have SBI, HDFC, whatever, IDABC, whatever bank, right? So a parent can have multiple childs. So this is C1, this is C2, right? This is C3. But A child cannot have multiple parents. For example, let's say this is your child one, okay, this is your C1. A child cannot have multiple parents. Now you guys need to explain why this is not possible. Parent one, um, parent two. So why this is not possible, guys? This is not possible in Java. Why? Anyone?
Amutan, like in the parent one, we have one variable declared, and with the same name in the parent two also it is variable. Then the child which is extending both classes will be completely confused which parent to give the priority.
Correct. So that's the exact reason. Again, you can explain this with a method or a variable, whatever it is. Yeah, that is correct. So let's see that in action, right? So let's say let's say this might not be a really good example because I don't have this. Okay, let's go to the old ones. Let we have the dog one, right? Let's assume there is a dog that is a domestic animal, and also sometimes it can be a wild animal. Okay, see, it is clearly throwing error because it is getting confused. Okay, you cannot extend multiple classes. The reason being, okay, in the domestic animal there is one sleep method. Okay, and in the wild animal also there is one sleep method. Okay, now in the dog class, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to provide the implementation for the sleep method. Okay, I'm just adding at the rate override whatever. Okay, I'm doing a out. I'm sleeping in dog class. Okay, whatever. Okay, you're trying to provide the implementation. Now in Python the case is different. In Python, whatever you declare first, this particular class is gets overridden, and here you will get the results, but that's different topic. Okay, but we are in Java, right? So in Java it doesn't know whether it wants to provide the implementation for domestic animal or whether you want to provide the implementation for wild animal, because it has to reuse, right? So whenever you are creating a dog class object, it needs to call its super class object. Okay, you are trying to call a superclass object. Which one should I call? I don't know which one I want to call. I cannot call both, right? So because in domestic animal you can provide different implementation, right? It's not only the abstract methods, guys. Let's say your domestic animal class, let's say this is not having an abstract method. Okay, you want to provide some implementation. Okay, you can also override a non-final method. It doesn't need to be always abstract. Okay, so what I'm telling, I'm from domestic animal. Okay, let's say also in the wild animal, I'm just making it as uh, implementation, and I'm removing the abstract method. Okay, you don't have to make it as abstract, whatever. Okay, you can type all these things. Okay, now still we are trying to override this and then trying to provide implementation, but it cannot accept, right? So the reason being, it doesn't know which domestic animal to which, whether it should call domestic animal method or the wild animal method. Okay, so if I go here, it doesn't know which one to call, this one or the wild animal. So that's the confusion. So it doesn't know this. Okay, so that's why it doesn't allow you to add. Either you extend this. Okay, okay, I'm fine. Now I know I need to call the sleep method. I need to override the sleep method in the wild animal class. But in some cases, if you want to domestic animal, it knows, okay, I want to override the method in the sleep method in the domestic animal class. So there is a confusion which parent I need to inherit. Okay, if there is same method, it doesn't know what to do, and that's the confusion, and hence multiple inheritance. Okay, previously we saw about multi-level inheritance, guys. I am multi-level inheritance. This is something like, okay, sorry for the typo. Yeah, multi-level inheritance is parent, child, grandparent. We have grandparent, parent, child, right? That is multi-levels. You have different levels. This is multiple. Okay, this is multiple inheritance. Okay, you have two parents for a child, which obviously is not the case, right? In real world also, a child cannot have two parents. It can have only one parent, right? The same way, it is not possible in Java as well. The reason being, if there are two methods or variables that are same in both the classes, the child class doesn't know which method it needs to override. right? That's the particular reason why we cannot extend multiple classes. Okay, even though multiple inheritance is not supported via classes, it is supported via some concept called as inheritance, sorry, interfaces. We will see about how we can do multiple inheritance with the help of interfaces tomorrow. Okay, if you have any other doubts, you can ask me now, otherwise we'll wrap for the day.